I'm Ashlyn Smith.
Nice to meet you too. Alrighty, so we did do a little bit of an introduction over the phone when you called and set up the appointment, but if you'd like to, just continue to introduce yourself, give me a little bit of information about you and why you're here, I feel like that's a good point to get us started.
Right. Okay, like I said, I used to be a nurse. I've kind of retired, even though I'm in my early 50s, had some back issues, and so kind of now stay-at-home grandma. I'm married. My husband and I have been married for 30 years now. We have 2 kids who are in their 20s, and just with getting hurt and having multiple back surgeries and going down to one income, things have just been really tough, and just really kind of needed a starting place to move forward and to improve our situation.
Absolutely. Okay, so it sounds like a great idea that you came in. We can definitely work with that. Just to kind of start us off, you said that you were down to one income, so your husband does have a job.
Yes, he works for the highway department.
Okay, are you okay with me taking notes, by the way?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so you have one income, and your husband, you said, works for the highway department. About how much does that bring in?
He makes about $20,000 a year.
Okay. And how much were you making before you quit working?
About $25,000.
Okay, so that has cut your income about in half, which I can definitely understand will put a strain on stuff like that.
Yes.
So, since you've, had to reel back, I suppose, on some of your expenses, what does your housing situation look like? Do you rent? Do you own?
We did own. We actually got foreclosed on. That's been tough trying to figure out where to go from here. My husband's in the process of interviewing for a job in the oil field, so we are probably going to be moving. But it's just hard trying to figure out where we're going to live, who's going to rent to us since we've been foreclosed on, and what we can find after all of this mess. So we're just kind of looking for options, trying to see what we can do to start rebuilding.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, it sounds like you have a relatively good grip on your situation and the things that are playing into it. What other expenses do you have month to month? Like, let's start with necessities.
Well, we really have a lot. We are bad about living paycheck to paycheck, and so having that income cut in half really did a number on us. We have, we don't have personal student loans, but our son has a learning disability, so we have a student loan for him. He was going to Sylvan for a while. And then we have just credit card debt, 2 car payments, utilities. Well, that will be if we can find a place in Midland when if he gets the job. Car insurance, different medical bills, especially with me having to have multiple surgeries.
Definitely. Do you have anything in the way of health insurance or anything similar to that? Did you look into it before you started experiencing difficulties?
So really didn't get a whole lot of answers before leaving my job, doctor-wise. Ended up leaving my job, and I did get Cobra for a little bit. That was incredibly expensive, but the pain management doctor that I was seeing at the time, I have blood pressure issues and heart issues, so I have medicine that I have to take, so I really needed that, continuing coverage for as long as I could get it.
Absolutely.
And have since been approved for Medicare, and so that helps a little bit, but I do still have expenses through that I have to pay, and I do still have to pay for my medicines and things like that. So
definitely, that is absolutely a necessity. So you're saying that takes a good chunk of your
Yes.
budgeting
Yes.
out. Okay. And have you been looking into any ways to make these expenses cheaper for you? Have you like shopped around at pharmacies and?
A little bit. I switched from my hometown pharmacy to Walmart since there are some of my prescriptions that I can get for $4. Some things I have to get at Walgreens or back at home. It just depends on what it is. I'm on several different things right now, so it's just been kind of a whirlwind of expenses. And my husband is a bit of a spender, so anytime we do have a little bit extra, doesn't really communicate, didn't really want me to come here. I don't foresee him coming in, but we have to figure something out.
Okay, great. Well, like I said, I'm very glad that you came in to see me. I'm very much looking forward to working with you. So you referenced moving to Midland with his new job. Do you have any plans for when you get there? Are you planning on owning another house, taking out a mortgage?
Seeing as we were just recently foreclosed on, I don't think that we'll be able to get a mortgage yet. We're really looking into an apartment, just anywhere that we can get while he starts this job when we start to make headway. Probably an apartment. I've looked around and there's not a whole lot of availability in that area just because it's such a busy place with all the workers and families and people constantly moving in. So it's been hectic, but it's going to be a considerable amount more than he's making now. I'm really concerned that the living expenses will eat away what he's increasing in his pay. But like I said, right now we don't really have a whole lot of options.
Yes. Definitely. Sorry, excuse me.
No problem.
So, are there any jobs that you would maybe be interested in? Have you talked to your doctor about being able to go back to some kind of work, or maybe a little bit?
We've talked about it a little bit. Right now my problem is just the constant pain. I can't be on my feet for very long without just excruciating pain. It's in my back, but it goes all the way down my left leg. Most of the time my foot is completely numb and it's just a shooting pain in my leg. They've done, like I said, several surgeries thinking that this is going to fix it, and they've actually put in what's called a stimulator on my spine, and I have a magnet that can turn it on or off, and that's supposed to help with those nerves and that nerve pain, but it doesn't really do much. I feel like it was just a waste of money on that surgery that I'm still paying on, so yeah. I just feel really discouraged as far as what I'm gonna do.
Definitely. Okay, so this is a very difficult situation, and I'm sure you've been having a hard time trying to figure out what you're wanting to do, and trying to discuss with your husband that maybe financial planning is something you should look into. I would really enjoy it if you could come in and visit with us, but that can definitely be something that we look more into later once we've established a better relationship and better just
right.
So, you said that you just had credit card debts that you were paying off, as well as medical debts. Are there any others that are weighing a lot into payments for the month?
So we've got several different credit cards, the car payments, the student loan for my son that we're still paying on, my medicines. We've got just a lot of debt.
Okay. So ideally, what are you looking to gain from our conversations? So if you were to pick one big thing you really want to work on and get out of the way first, what would that be?
Probably money management in general, because I know that our situation is going to take a long time to get out of, and I know that it's not going to happen overnight, but anything that we can do to start making those small changes that are going to set us up for success in the future and get out of this hole that we've dug ourselves into. My husband's family, they were farmers, and they would get their checks for their crops and they would essentially just blow it. They would go on trips, they would buy things for all the kids and grandkids and just do a lot of different things, and then they would live broke for the rest of the year. And so my husband growing up, he had several siblings and they didn't really have a whole lot, and so his theory is he's spending it now because he couldn't when he was younger, but he doesn't realize that by doing that, he's making it where our kids don't have anything. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to communicate that to him. And, I come from a pretty frugal family, but I like to spend too, and I feel like if he's doing it, then I should be able to do something too. And so I think we've just kind of one-upped each other into a big mess.
Okay, and so those are called money scripts, which is just, ideas about money and finances that you get from your parents, kind of unspoken rules. So you said that he is more of a spend it when you have it kind of person, mm-hmm. and you said your parents raised you to be a little bit more frugal. Can you highlight just a couple of the big differences you feel like between your style of wanting to save and budget and his ideas around that?
Yeah, so I feel like we should have something put back for a rainy day, anything. Not necessarily saying that we have to have every spare penny that doesn't go towards bills put back, but, for instances like this, if we had started when we first got married being more intentional with our money, then we probably wouldn't be in as bad of a situation as we are. And I can't get him to understand that. And what if something happens to him? Then
you're at a loss.
Exactly. I mean, I do have family that I could lean on, but I just am not health-wise in a position to support myself right now. And my son has a disability, so he's with me as well. He can't work. So what are we supposed to do? And I can't get him to understand that.
Definitely, and that is absolutely something to, feel concerned about that. That is 100% normal and justified. Would you be okay with me giving you the names of a couple of different people I know in the industry? So maybe giving you some information about like a financial counselor. I think will really be able to help you, figure out your foreclosure issues and maybe help you look into some debt forgiveness. That is definitely a possibility, especially if it has to do with learning. Debt forgiveness is, an option. So I might, if you're okay with it, give you some of that information to get in contact with them, because that is more of their specialty. So I really think that they'll be able to help you a lot better in that respect than I would be able to. If you are wanting to talk a little bit more about helping to budget, like you mentioned, I can absolutely help you with stuff like that. So you said that basically what you want to get out of this is money management. So that would look like us collecting your bill information. So we'll sit down together and we'll look at statements for, car expenses. We'll look at his income, we'll look at all the expenses for you guys, and we'll be able to talk about maybe where you could cut back a little bit, or if you can find a little bit of extra money to help pay off your debts and pay off that a little bit faster, avoid some interest. So that would be definitely something that we want to look into, which will just involve you bringing any papers or information that you have for that stuff into me so I can look at them further. And then, that way it'll be easier to set up budget and a monthly plan kind of that we can go, because I know you guys are in a difficult situation right now, so I really do feel like a month to month might be a better option than just giving you one generic financial plan and saying, here you go, here's this for the year,
right,
but like you don't know what your expenses are going to be next month,
right,
and if you're going to have less money next month or more money next month. So that's definitely something we want to pay attention to. Is there any other big any like overwhelming issues you feel like we should discuss and make a base for on this first meeting?
Other than just trying to figure out, what would be best to start with. I don't know, obviously a deposit for an apartment if we end up moving. Should we stay here and with family and try to sort some stuff out that way? Like, I don't know where to start, and it's really difficult when he and I aren't necessarily on the same page, and I don't feel like he has the same sense of urgency about this as I do, and that has just made it exponentially more frustrating, especially not really being able to work right now, feeling like I don't really have any control over the situation.
Definitely.
And I don't really contribute anything to the situation, but obviously it's my problem as well. I just am not sure what the best plan of action would be for our situation right now.
Okay, and that's completely understandable. So we can look at, like I said, your income and expenses right now. We can also try and formulate and maybe look into a little bit more what it would look like if he did get that job in Midland. And you said that he would be making how much more with that one?
It would be probably about $50,000 more a year.
Annually. Okay, so that is a very good bit of money. We can definitely start looking into maybe places to rent in Midland, and we can look at the expenses associated with that. We can start talking about maybe some of the expenses associated with moving, and what it would really look like if you guys were to move to Midland, if your standard of living would change, taxes, all that good stuff. We can definitely start looking into that for you. I believe that we're going into the last little bit of our session, so I'm going to just recap for you what we've talked about, and if there's anything that I'm missing that you feel like I really should know, or if I get anything incorrect, please correct me so I can have it all ready for next time.
Okay.
So we've talked about how you have lost your job, and that's put a big strain on the finances in your household. You said it cut it to about half of what you were having before. You're in a difficult house situation, and you have some debts that you want to take care of. The thing that we are mostly trying to focus on right now is to do some big money management. So hopefully getting better with the budgeting and being able to spend a little bit better, a little bit more wisely, and as well as looking into the opportunity for your husband to get a different job in Midland. So what that would look like, what the expenses would look like for that. Is there anything important that I'm missing, or anything that you'd like to add?
No, that pretty well covers the general idea of why I decided to come to you, and definitely things that we need to figure out moving forward.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that is great to hear. So I am definitely going to give you the information of that financial counselor, because while I think that we can definitely get some good things going and we can get it figured out, I really do think it would be beneficial to you to be able to get an outside opinion that's maybe more specialized in this, because we just want you to succeed and we want you to get there as fast as you can. So, if there's somebody else that's able to do that better to a certain aspect, I'm definitely going to let you know. One of the other things I think is important that we can begin to talk about in our next meeting is going to be, setting up an emergency fund. So I do believe that you are definitely on the right track with that, and I really appreciate that you need to have it and that it's important. That is definitely a really good start. I do think that we should establish one, and it will, help bring you a little bit more of a sense of security, which I think is something that you would really appreciate. So we are going to get you set up with an emergency fund, because I know with health issues, it can be tricky if you get into a tight situation or something happens, escalates. We'll definitely want to be able to let you take care of yourself if anything like that were to happen. Or, God forbid, if anything were to happen to your husband's income, that is an important safety measure to have. So I do think that is definitely something that we'll talk about next time. I also am going to suggest that we maybe start talking to your husband a little bit more, because although I can talk to you and you can understand me perfectly and we can get along fine, it does make a difference whenever there's somebody else in the house, and you do need to get their input on everything that's going on. So maybe we can work out a time where I can even call. We don't have to come in and have a meeting. I can just call and chat, get to know him a little bit better, and maybe see if we can figure out a time for him to come in or to start talking about some of these things, and just slowly working our way towards a solution that I hope will be best for both of you and agreeable for both of you in the future.
Right. Okay, that sounds good, and I'll keep working on him.
Alrighty. Well, it was great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in again.
I appreciate it.
You have a great rest of your day.
You too.